Hey, everybody. Welcome to Have You Seen It Lately, the newest show on the DJB Productions channel. If you're coming to us from one of our other DJB production shows, whether it be that Way Cool Wrestling show, DJs After Dark, Capes Not Included, we appreciate the support. Also, too, if you found us through our Facebook page, we love having you here. And again, thank you for supporting the show. If you've stumbled across us through just a random YouTube search, here's a quick rundown of what we're doing on this show. We're going to be talking about old movies from our youth, what we liked about them, what we didn't like about them. My name's Matt Sunner. I'm joined today by my co-host and the creator of DJB Productions, Mr. Danny J himself. Danny, how you doing this morning, brother?
Good morning. Happy everybody to see you come on to the program today. Like Matt said, we do appreciate all the support. And as always, hit that subscribe button down below. Share it to all your friends. We're producing a lot of different shows on this channel, this being one of them. And we hope you guys enjoy the hell out of it because we're enjoying the hell out of making it for you.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we're having a lot of fun on a lot of other shows. But so let's go ahead. Our premiere episode, brother. We've had some delays. We've had some setbacks. So we're going to start it off with a really cool movie that we both loved. And that is the wonderful, wonderful Charlie Sheen movie, The Wraith, a classic from the 80s. Oh, man, we were talking about this and we were thinking, you know, it's got a really cool sci-fi element, a very small horror element. One of the things I know I really loved about the movie more than anything else is I'm a gearhead at heart. So, I mean, it's got a lot of car chases. The premise of the movie, if you haven't seen it, and warning, if you're watching the show, if you haven't seen the movies we're talking about, there will be some spoilers.
Yes.
So there will be spoilers. We'll try not to ruin it too much for those of you who haven't seen it, but pretty much all the movies that we're going to talk about are going to have an element, even if we've ruined a plot point or spoiled the ending, for the most part, unless we're talking about movies that we thought were just total stinkers, they have a lot of merit to them, and you should actually go and check them out because they are a lot of fun. They are a lot of fun, and you know, we might ruin a plot point, might spoil something, but it's always fun to see how you got from point A to point B. So again, I love this movie. The premise of it, Charlie Sheen plays a guy named Jake, shows up in this little town. First person he meets is this super, super hot local chick played by the always lovely Sherilyn Fenn.
Because that's how it always happens, right?
Oh,
you show up in a town, the first person you see is this extremely hot chick coming out of her house, you know.
Exactly. Every 80s movie, you have to introduce the hot chick in the first 2 minutes of the movie or forget about it. Done. But the plot of it is he shows up, she doesn't know who's a new guy in town, whatever. Right. Riding this old Honda dirt bike. I think it was a Honda, whatever. But either way, it's kind of like a trail bike, but it hardly makes any sound. You figure you hear this guy coming from a mile away, but all of a sudden it's like, boom, he's right there. This thing's like super quiet. It has this very eerie, ethereal sound to the exhaust, whatever. And he's just asking her, hey, you know, new in town, blah, 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 blah. Well, we come to find out later as the movie progresses, he is a spirit in physical form, kind of like the Crow before the Crow ever came along. Except he hasn't been resurrected from the dead. He doesn't look exactly like himself. He's chosen a form that was close to how he looked like before. He was murdered by this local gang, if you want to call them that. They have a lot of hot rods, race cars. They basically stop people on the street, force them to race for pink slips, usually cheat to win, if they're not going to win naturally, and steal the guy's cars to use it to either, you know, part it out, scrap it, whatever. You know, we don't really see too much of overall, you know, their operation.
Now you're gonna ask, why are they able to race for pink slips and why are they able to get away with this for so long? And the whole movie, I think, was sponsored by Dodge Chrysler.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And what happened was the cop cars in this show are Dodge Aries, which I don't think any cop car has ever been a Dodge Aries ever.
They were all Plymouth K cars, you know. I think that was a ploy by the producers for them to get the car, and that is really the true star of this movie more than anything else is the car that he uses. He comes back Said he was killed by this gang mainly because he was messing around with the gang leader's girlfriend, who is, again, said hottie from the beginning of the movie.
Well, let me correct you. He wasn't messing around with the gang leader's girlfriend.
Well, yeah, he considered her his girlfriend.
The gang leader wanted his girlfriend and basically took out what was in his way, took out his opposition so that she would have no other choice but to be with him. How romantic is that?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, nothing like a great psycho boyfriend. And so they find him out in this shack, whatever. The girl doesn't realize who it is because they're all hooded up, whatever, and they kill this guy, throw him in the trunk of the car, push him over a cliff, whatever. Right. So he comes back and he's avenging his death. And what he does is he shows up as this, as you can see in our background picture here, he's all suited up, this driver suit. Unfortunately, the movie poster doesn't show the car very well. No, but it was this awesome car built by Dodge as a pace car for Indy Racing Series. It was a design prototype, and instead of like most concept cars where it's just basically a shell, not much of an engine in it, it's like, hey, this is what we're looking like design-wise. This thing was made to be a production car, a supercar. Built in 1981, twin-turbo, 4-cylinder, mid-mounted engine. This thing was a badass car. Too bad they never developed it for the street.
And think about this for a second. For 1981, when you see the movie, they referred to it as a Dodge Interceptor, I believe it was.
Yeah, Dodge Interceptor. Yep.
And let me tell you something. For 1981, this car could have easily been in 93, 94.
Oh, yeah.
95. Because I don't want to say it's reminiscent to the Dodge, not the Avenger, but what was the
Viper?
The Viper. Was it the Dodge Viper? Yeah, I think it was the Dodge Viper.
Yeah.
The Dodge Viper looked a lot like it. Also, if you go back, the more unpopular Plymouth Laser.
Yeah.
Kind of was like it as well. Like they kind of drew from that design. It was very futuristic.
Especially for 81.
And it wasn't corny futuristic. In other words, so I'm not talking about like a DeLorean. I'm talking about a car that looked like it was not from that time.
Exactly. As one of the taglines for some of the movie posters, which varied. I mean, the movie posters and what actually got released as the picture for the like the DVD and video release for it eventually was really bad picture. It had actually Charlie Sheen, Sherilyn Fenn, Nick Cassavetes, and one of the other random guys from his gang all standing there kind of looking at in awe of like this speeding light kind of coming down the road as if like they're all friends and like going, what the heck is this? You'd think they're all buddies in the movie.
I mean, you're that guy, it's like
yeah. But we had this photo, and the tagline for this particular movie poster was, "If you've done nothing wrong, you have nothing to fear." The other tagline we saw on some of them was, "He's not from around here," which I always thought was funny because technically he is.
Right.
He is from around here.
The cool thing about this was too that when he came back, and you're like, well, why is it racing? Why is it a car? That's what these guys do. So what he ended up doing, he came back, and the old saying, like you hit them in their pocket. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like the best way to get back at a millionaire is to take his money. You know what I mean? That type of thing. And that's kind of like what they did with him. This was his way of getting back at him. Could he have done simpler things just to get these guys? Sure. Wouldn't have made a good movie.
No, I mean, literally, they all have their garage they hang out with. Right. He could just literally walked in as this suited up spirit, and at one point, he actually walks into their shop.
Yeah,
he's got this crazy futuristic shotgun, whatever. He could have just walked in there, blown them all away.
Right,
but it's he comes back. The car is the bait. That's how the initial revenge starts. The car is the bait. He shows up. These guys see the car and they say, I have no idea what it is, but we have to have it.
Right. And you know what? He fed on their selfishness. He fed on their greed, per se. And basically what he ended up doing was he made their greed consume them. And ultimately, their greed is what led them to their demise. You know what I mean? So in a way, it was like very neat because like it wasn't just outright, oh, I'm just like, yeah, I did that a while ago and I'm not doing anything anymore. They're being bad. Well, guess what? Being bad is going to really come back to bite you. So in essence, he was karma in a sense. He was karma to these guys. You know, yeah, keep doing it, man. Eventually something's going to happen bad. And it did. This wraith comes back, this ghost. And what a cool thing. And I got to say, in this movie, and you'll notice, we've seen this movie a million times, probably out of everything we're describing, where you see this background poster and it's this futuristic guy, and you're like, well, okay, he looks like a bounty hunter or something like that. It's not like scary or whatever. But probably the eeriest part of this movie is in the very beginning. They go to this lake, okay? This is in the very beginning. It goes back to what we just said. He pulls into town. He meets the hot chick. He says, hey, I'm looking for such and such place. Can you tell me where it's at? And he finds out where it's at. And he goes there, and that's where he meets Billy Hankins.
Yeah,
Billy Hankins.
Billy Hankins, the younger brother of who Charlie Sheen was,
right? He meets him. So everything's kind of happening for a reason. Like he's positioning himself in a certain area. Yeah. But you see this scene where, like, imagine there's like all these people at this lake and they're on rocks and they're laying out and they're partying and stuff
down
like
the river.
You're right. And then Packard Walsh, who's our bad guy, he's across the way. He's with his gang of guys, and he's with Carrie, who's the girl in question.
Girlfriend. Yeah.
And, you know, he sees her talking to Jake right before they get there, right? And Packard Walsh is an insanely jealous person. So he's like, I don't trust this one. I don't trust that one. What's that guy want? What's about him? Why is he talking to my girlfriend? Blah, blah, blah. Right? So he sees him there. And like I said, this was such an eerie moment in this whole movie. You see it from Packard's perception. He's looking across the way. He sees this stranger. The stranger has these big, dark 80s style sunglasses, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's talking. Everybody's doing something. They're all looking around, blah, 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 and he's staring straight at Packard.
Yeah.
And he's not moving.
No idea who I am, but I'm looking at you. You don't know me, but I know you.
But it was almost eerie in a sense, like it's a ghost looking at you. You know, like when you're like, I'm looking at something that I'm pretty sure nobody else sees, in a sense. Yeah. Is that feeling you get from it. It's very eerie because it's like it only happens for a few seconds. But when you see him there like this, and you don't see his eyes because he has sunglasses on, and he's just staring, he's not moving. Everything's happening around him, but he's deadlocked on Packard Walsh. Yeah. And Packard Walsh is looking at him like, and you can tell Packard gets uneased by this because it's like, this is like a very awkward thing that this guy is staring straight the fuck at me. And it's like, wow.
Who is that guy? And he even says to his crew, like, who is that guy talking to Billy? You know, who is he? You know, oh, don't know.
Right.
Find out.
Yes.
He says, find out who that guy is.
Yeah.
And you know, we start, like I said, we start out, you know, he shows up, he lures him in with the car, and you never see him. That's the thing. I mean, typically, you know, most of their encounters with these cars on the street, either they'll block them off, you know, hey, you look in the guy's car and say, hey, you know, you're racing us. And if you don't, I mean, one of the first things we see them do in the movie is a guy and a girl cruising through town in this, you know, hot little Dodge Daytona. Right. They block up, they literally block the road and say, you're racing us. They yank his girlfriend out of the car and say, we're holding on to your girl. You get her back at the end of the race. Right. Now you're either going to get your car and your girl back, or you're just going to get your girl back. And if you don't race us, well, something really nasty is going to happen to both of you.
Right.
And ultimately, Packard's driving this. I mean, again, too, let's talk. The stars, more than anything else, is not only the car of the Wraith, but the other cars of these guys racing. Packard Walsh driving this classic third-generation Corvette.
Yeah.
Beautiful car. You got a guy driving a 77 or 78 Firebird, which, ironically enough, I always thought it was weird. Packard Walsh has this third-generation Corvette We don't know whether modifications have been done to it, but
Right.
the one dude, I believe his name was Augie, was the character who drove the Firebird.
Was
He's
that a
got
Firebird
this-
or was that a Dodge? I thought that was a Dodge, like a Daytona.
well,
I know
the,
the Daytona is what
the
they
Day-
raced in the beginning.
yeah. Well, later it's I don't think Augie has the
Was he
no,
the
that's
red
right,
car?
Augie. Yeah, Augie has the I'm forgetting now the character's got the name of the character with the Firebird, but the yellow Firebird. Either way,
Oh well,
has
no,
a
no,
severely
that's the kid who's like a jock
yeah,
that has
yeah.
the yellow
The
Firebird.
yellow Firebird.
Yes.
Now, this Firebird has been modified to the point where it's got a giant fuel-injected and supercharged engine in it. I mean, full-on engine taken out. This car would beat the hell out of Packard Walsh's Corvette.
Easily.
It would smoke it easy. So you're wondering, why is it Packard Walsh is driving the slower of these two cars for all intents and purposes? Now, who knows? Maybe it's the Pontiac guy and me talking. I don't know. But either way,
But
you know,
it comes down to a chain of command. It comes down to let's take his name for his name is Packard. It's a pack. You know what I mean? I don't think that was just randomly named. I don't think his name was randomly named Packard. I think it was to symbolize a pack, and he was the head wolf. He was the head lion. Like it was like, you can challenge me all you want, but I'm going to take you out.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have to be with the car, you know.
Yeah, well, ironically, too, Packard was a car company way back in the day. But you think about it, Packard Walsh, Pack Wolf. He's the pack of wolves. You know, and he is the leader. He is the alpha male in this group. And it's just really funny because, I mean, we get to see the cars getting out there. You know, they don't see the guy ever. They just pull him up and they're like, we're going to race you.
And for the sake of argument, he's like a 35-year-old guy hanging with like 19-year-olds. That's what it looks like.
Yeah. Two of which are like total waste cases. You got Skank and Gutter Boy.
Yeah.
Skank is he's like drinking hydraulic fluid and antifreeze and crap. You know, he's like
Boy is like autistic. You know what I mean?
He's like
that. But you know what you get though. The one thing about this movie though too is that you get into those characters as well, right?
Yeah, we don't leave these two-dimensional villains. You know,
it's not bad guy, good guy. Packard's a human too. Packard, you could see, cares for Skank and Gutter Boy.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? He does actually, like, he's a tough love with them, but you can see that's his boys. You don't see him interact with Augie. You don't see him interact with the other guy, the Firebird guy. I forget his name too. I forgot for whatever. But Skank and Gutter Boy are his guys for whatever reason, you know, and you could tell he cares about him because he tells him, he says, dude, get off that piss before your brain turns into a melon. You know what I mean? Like he cares about his boy. You know what I mean? And he takes care of them. And I think it's because maybe they're the most loyal to Packard, but also I think they're the least amount of threat to Packard.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because I think Packard,
you're not going to build up.
He's keeping his friends close and his enemies closer. So I think like Augie and the Firebird guy, like he obviously used Firebird guy because Firebird guy was smart. This Firebird guy did all the bookings and did all the money and stuff like that. And like everybody had their part to play. Augie, he didn't give two shits when Augie went. When Augie got toasted, it was like whatever, no big deal. But Skank and Gutter Boy, he picks them up. You know, he takes care of them. They take care of them. I think honestly, it was you are an underling, and I don't have to worry about you. Yeah. So I like you.
I'm going to build you up. I'm going to take care of you because you're going to stay loyal. I'm not going to build the other guys up because if I build them up too much, they become a threat. They're going to think that they can maybe start calling the shots and challenge my authority.
So now
I'm not going to build that up.
It humanizes Packard, but it also shows you his strategic mind of how he's going to conduct himself because in the end, he's got to be number one. Like you said, he's got to be the alpha, and he's doing whatever he can to be the alpha in this movie. Yeah.
And again, then what we have to talk about is how we saw, he's coming back and he's going to get his revenge. How exactly does he get his revenge? Well, as he's racing these guys, he ends up, because this car is so fast, and again, getting back to the actual car, they didn't use the actual car for a lot of the racing scenes. They built replicas on their shelf. Because, I mean, this thing, again, it was built and it was used as a pace car for Indy Series. So Dodge was not letting anything happen to this car. That car, in real-world testing, had a top speed of just shy of 195 miles an hour. It's like 194.8.
Right.
It was, again, twin turbocharged 2.2-liter four-cylinder that was making over 440 horsepower. This thing went 0 to 60 in 4 seconds. I mean, this thing was a rocket on wheels, especially for 1981.
Yes.
There was nothing. Yes. There was. I mean, this thing was keeping up with Indy cars. It was traveling at their speed, and he'd pull ahead of them. Next thing you know, he would turn, block the road, whatever, around like a blind corner. These guys come around with their car, too late to hit the brakes. They slam into his car. Their car blows up, rolls down the hill, ball of flame, whatever. You see a little piece of the car or a piece of his suit like laying on the ground, and it disappears. And 2 seconds later, it shows another shot of the car rematerializing.
Yes.
And again, the really cool thing that they did with this movie, they wanted to keep, again, a little bit of the horror element in it. They always showed you, at least the first couple guys, the dead bodies.
Right.
And these cars were going down a cliff with twisted metal, broken glass, car on fire. And when they find the body, they're completely naked with the exception of their boxers. As the cop, played by Randy Quaid, mentions, because the other cop says, like, you got to see the body. And it's like, well, what do you mean? I got to see? It's like, this is weird. This is going to freak you out. They open up the body bag, and as Randy Quaid mentions, they look like they just came out of a hot bath.
Right.
They're clean. They're pristine. They're pretty much all like totally white as a sheet, almost like drained of blood. And their eyes are all missing and blackened out.
Yeah, it's like there's black holes in their eyes.
Yeah.
Which kind of symbolizes the soul being taken.
I've pulled your soul. I've sucked it out of you. And it was great because it was a great
remember,
way of,
there's an old saying that the eyes are the window to the soul. And therefore, when you see that these eyes are blacked out completely, like there is no eyeball there, like it's a hole.
Yeah, it's a hole.
But it's blacked out, like almost like if it was like blown out. You know what I mean?
The eyeballs are missing, and it's a big black ring, like it was burned. It just like it burned out. The eyes
so it's like he ripped the soul right out of their eyes, which also later on, and you don't really see it with the couple races that you do, but you see it with Packard. Because he is a ghost, because he does have supernatural capabilities, he kind of makes them see what he wants them to see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So in other words, he's making sure that like they're not going to see my car jackknifed and stop the car. Like he's making it like in the one where when he's racing Packard, once again, spoiler warning for anybody who's not watching it, Packard sees him just standing in the road by himself.
Yeah, the car's not even there. It's him.
The car's not there. But meanwhile, you're through the viewing of editing, you see that the car is there, and he's doing the same exact thing. He's just jackknifed in the middle of the road, blocking the road. But to Packard, it's just the kid himself there with a gun, ready, waiting for him. And Packard tries to ram him with the car, but he ends up ramming the car itself because he doesn't see the car.
Yeah, and it was just really great because overall, this is again it was profitable for the studio to a certain degree. It wasn't a major, huge blockbuster hit, but it is definitely what I call a great popcorn movie. You can sit there; it holds up.
Great movie, yes,
it holds up. There's only a couple of problems I ever really had with this movie. The big thing is the ending. Because again, we got to start wrapping this up. We only got a few minutes left here.
Yeah.
But the ending, he comes back after luring Packard out. Because even he lures Packard out after Packard shows up and takes Carrie.
Right.
From, he's this guy, Billy Hankins. He's going to give her a ride home from work. And Packard shows up. What are you doing getting in the car with the guy? Billy tries standing up to him. Obviously gets laid out. And everybody just lets Packard take Carrie off because he's like, we're getting out of town. Because now at this point, the Wraith, he's killed like everybody in there. Oh, one person we didn't mention Ron Howard's crazy, goofy brother plays their technician, Rughead.
Rughead.
Oh God, what's his name?
Terrence, not Terrence.
I know. I forget his name too. But he turns up like in everything. He turns up in everything. I'll remember as soon as we stop recording.
Exactly.
But he's killed everybody except him because he was not involved in the killing of Jamie Hankins. So it's pretty much you're just their tech guy. You had nothing to do about it. You didn't even know about it. So I'm sparing you again with the tagline: if you did nothing wrong, you have nothing to fear.
That's right.
He leaves him alone. He leaves him alone because like you weren't part of it. Just let you know. So Packard now is trying to get out of town because he realizes what's going on. And again, that's where then again he meets up with him on the road because he's trying to take Carrie. At one point, he's all like, "I'd do anything for you." He pulls a switchblade on her, but then he wraps his own hand around it and squeezes it till his own hand bleeds and pulls it off the knife.
And it's showing how psycho he is. It's showing how like this is not a stable guy. This is someone that Carrie's going to have a problem with it if she decides to go with this guy, that type of thing.
No matter what, your life is over.
But then when you say that the Wraith shows up,
comes in and just rear ends him like, "Hey, buddy, you're not getting anywhere."
But here's the deal. But when he pulls up and he's having this, I don't want to say heart to heart with Carrie, but Packard's talking to Carrie saying, "Listen, we're going to go somewhere. We're going to go out west. You're always going to be mine, and that's it. And this is the end of it." It shows that Packard doesn't covet her over everything else. Packard covers his own pride over everything else because when the Razor comes, fucking Carrie's on the fucking side of the road.
Yeah, he's like, get out.
And get out, and we're racing. I'm racing this guy. I'm going to take this guy out. It's more important to him to beat this guy than it is even to be with Carrie. He could have left. He could have got out of there. Now, granted, the Wraith would have.
Wraith was not going to let him. Yeah, but at that point,
the Wraith wasn't going to let him. Yeah.
But so after he defeats Packard, next thing you know, he pulls up. Carrie's walking home. He pulls up in the car, gets out, still suited, and transforms back into Jamie.
Or Jake,
and
you should say.
Jake, rather. I'm sorry, Jake.
Okay.
Turns back into Jake. And that's when he explains to her, it's like, I'm Jamie. This is the closest I could come to who I once was. And it's like, get your stuff. We're leaving. And then he's like, I got one more thing to do. Just be ready when I come back.
Right.
So then he goes driving off to the burger joint where Billy, Jamie's brother, works at. Comes in. He's thinking it's Packard or one of his guys, coming back in. He turns around. And he's got like a broom in his hand, like I'll bust you up, whatever. And he's like, yo, hang on. Oh, it's just me. And he says, I'm leaving town. He says, but I've got a gift for you. He says, it's right outside. He says, it's called a Turbo Interceptor, only one in the world. It does special things for special people. Instructions are in the glove compartment. And he walks out. Dude comes out and he's looking at it, and that's finally when you actually see the Dodge. Actually, it was a Chrysler emblem on it.
Yeah, it was a Chrysler emblem.
So that's when you actually see the actual car. That's probably the best shot of the actual physical car, the production model. But he's all like, so Jake's getting on his motorcycle. Which again, how did he get the car and the motorcycle there together? Again, he's a ghost though.
He can do whatever he wants.
He's leaving town, and he's driving out of town. Actually, at one point when Packard's trying to follow him, you actually see the brake breaks up in like these three little orbs of light and flies off. Whatever.
He can do whatever he wants.
He can do whatever he wants. So he's got the motorcycle there, and Billy says, who are you, bro? And he says, you got it, and rides off. And he's sitting there going, and he realizes, he's like, Jake, and he realizes it, and he starts crying. He realizes it's his brother, right. And he's like, call Jamie. It's almost kind of like the end of the old Western Shane, like Shane, come back,
Shane. Yes.
And but he's looking at it, and it's like, wow, here's this car, and here's where my real problem is. You're leaving your brother, the car that has been involved in multiple vehicular homicides that the entire police force has been looking for. Now, Randy Quaid, at one point when Packard's dead, the other deputies are saying, you want to set up roadblocks? He's like, no, you can't, why try and stop something that can't be stopped? because they tried doing that earlier,
Right.
and the car smashes through a roadblock, destroys 2 cop cars without a scratch on it.
Right.
He's like, just let it go. You know, the gang's dead. You know, whoever did this, he's wiped out. Everybody needs to be killing. Now this kid's going to show up driving around. At that point, the cops are going to say, who was that guy? Where'd you get the car? Where did you go to?
Jake's like, not my problem.
Well, this guy's going to make your life wonderful. No, it's not.
You know what the instructions in the glove compartment were? There were instructions on how to get out of the county because that's what he's going to have to do.
The instructions are a fucking map.
Here's a
map.
There's a list of guys that you can sell the car to, and you're going to need to get out quickly.
Yeah. And then, you know, he shows up. He comes back to Carrie's house. They get on the motorcycle. Okay, does she living by herself? Is she still living with family?
You never see her parents.
Never see her parents.
No.
She just abandons her house. You know, again, if she is living on her own, which probably not because they're, you know, maybe mid-20s, mid-20ish, you know, maybe even younger, maybe early 20s.
Yeah.
So just abandon your family. Hop on the bike with this guy. Where are you going?
And
he's a phantom. He's a ghost. He has no house. Where are you going? The afterlife?
We cannot say enough how extremely hot Sherilyn Flynn was in this movie.
Oh yeah,
she was so.
Hello.
She was so distractingly hot. Like you're watching her, and she didn't even act well in the movie.
No,
she really didn't even act well in the movie.
I mean, she became a half decent actress in time.
She did,
but again,
in time.
She can carry her role. She can carry her role.
This movie, she wasn't carrying shit. But when
you
saw her, and what eye candy she was. Like as a diabetic, my sugar went up. It was like ridiculous. She was so ridiculously high that even like Charlie Sheen, who was a hot item at that time, it was like, dude, you can't get her. It's like,
and ironically, do you know who she was dating at the time and was on set a lot at that point?
Who's that?
Johnny Depp. That's
right. That's right. I did hear that. That's right.
Dating Johnny Depp at the time, and he was like always on set. To the point where some of the producers are kind of like, you know, you need to. Do you have anywhere else you can be? You know, do you have to be here?
And he's probably like, look at her. No, I don't. Yeah. This is exactly where I need to be.
You're kidding me? She's interacting with Charlie Sheen and Nick Cassavetes? No, I'm making sure my shit is, you know, on live.
On 21 Jump Street, your ass. If you go near my woman, you know,
exactly, exactly. But either way, but it's a great movie. So Dan, what do you say? After all these years, does it hold up?
I watched it last week, and I loved it. And my wife was like, Jesus Christ, this movie again? Because that's how much I watch it. But it is one of my top movies. Like there are movies where you're like, oh, I love that movie.
Yeah.
And you don't watch it for a while. But there are movies that, and we'll talk about them on the show, that are movies that you watch on a regular basis just because that's how good they are and you can watch them over and over again. This is one of them. This is one of those movies that from start to finish, I don't have a problem with anything in it. It captures my attention. It keeps my attention. It's a great sci-fi flick.
Yeah.
It's a great horror flick in a sense. Yeah. It's not too much. Anybody could watch it. I had my daughter watch it with me. Yeah. And it's just one of those movies that...
There's the love scene. So if you got young kids, there's like maybe...
And that love scene's not even that good, but man, I mean, as a grown man though, I can imagine what that love scene was like because she is so.
I mean, you do see naked breasts at one point. So if you got young children, you might want to kind of, you know, just cut the eyes for a few seconds and be like, whatever. Again, who knows? Maybe you're a little bit more laid back, and I think some people really should be. But that's
or if you have a dad, or if you're a dad and you have sons, to be like, son, this is what women should look like. Forget about your mother.
Don't tell your mother I showed you this.
Don't tell your mother I showed you this at all. Yeah. But no, this is a great movie. You definitely want to watch it. It's something you want to put in your favorites list. And it gets you in and out. It's in and out real quick. There's not a lot of dialogue. And let me tell you something. That's
another great thing about it, the pacing. The pacing is fantastic.
Boom, 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 boom. Yeah.
Gives you what's needed for the plot and cuts out the fluff.
It does. It really honestly does. Overall, editing was great of the movie. Within reason. There's technical edits, so you could be like, oh, that could have been better or whatever. But it was an older movie.
You're gonna find that in every movie,
right? But no, it's a great movie. It gets you from point A to point B very, very quickly and easy with a lot of entertainment in the middle. It's a great soundtrack, by the way.
Oh, yeah,
it's a great soundtrack, by the way.
Idol, Ozzy Osbourne, just to name a couple of the biggest ones.
Yeah. And even some of the other ones that are not on there. I have some of the songs from there, like on my phone and my personal list, just because I like them. And that's how good they were. So it's one of those things where it's a great show to listen to. It's a great show to watch. If it was something that could be redone today, I think with today's special effects, with today's actors and actresses, I think what a great movie this would be if it was a reboot. I think
it's a movie, and again, that's one of the other things we'll talk about on this show, whether or not it's something that's worthy of a reboot, and how much of a reboot do you do, though? And unfortunately, I think that's the only thing I would be worried about with a reboot is sometimes when they do a reboot, they don't just sit there and go back, hey, let's use some of our better technology for effects and whatnot. Sometimes they go ahead and start changing the story all around.
Right.
One movie I know that we'll definitely start talking about at some point as we're doing this show, but like when they did that remake of Red Dawn.
Yes.
I mean, it was, if the original, again, it was one of those movies where if the original one didn't exist, you would have been like, oh, this was a cool movie. But with the way they changed the plot and some of the story, they made it. I don't want to get into too many other movies,
right?
But they kind of took away the magic. That's unfortunate.
But understand that certain movies. Understand though, certain movies have to be updated for the time so that they can be relevant, so that they can actually be something that's worth watching. This is a movie that is on a core level, and I don't think needs to be modified in any way. The only thing I could see happening with a reboot of a movie like this, if they would ever do it, and they won't. I know they won't, but
it didn't make enough movie money originally to.
Right, it's a cult. It's a cult, and it's a minor cult classic. It's not even like a major cult classic. Yeah. But this is a movie that you would maybe get more in depth into some of these characters. You would get more character development that you didn't necessarily get with this one here. But I could see that being like the only modification with it. Otherwise, the core movie that it was could last across time.
Yeah.
It really could. This could have been a movie done in the 50s.
Yeah.
As a black and white movie. And it literally is the same thing.
It has that kind of, those old, 19 movies from the 1950s, some of the hot rod, like your, oh God, like even like in the 60s, all of your hot rod, it would have guys, racing their hot rods and everything else. Right. It has that feel. And which again, most of us as human beings, we, on some level, love that feeling of speed and excitement, whatever.
You know what? You can compare, and this didn't happen because this was a one-off movie. But when we say that it could last through time, it could have been done in the 50s, it could have been done in the future, it could be done then. Think of the movie The Thing, which is a movie we will do on this program. That was a movie that originally was in the 50s.
Yep. The Thing
did its thing. Yeah, did it. It was great. It was a good movie. And then when you got an updated version in the 80s, it was just more graphic.
Yeah.
But the same basic scenario was there. Right.
Yeah.
And that's something that could have been with this. This movie could have been the same general plot across the 50s, the 60s, and the 2000s very easily. It's a great movie. Watch it, rent it, try and find it, own it. It's awesome. You're going to love it.
But anyway, I'm thinking that brings our first episode of Have You Seen It Lately to a close. Danny, I want to thank you for joining me on this.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
We're going to hopefully add some additional cast members because Danny J, as I said, for those of you who are new to our channel, he is a very, very busy man with DJB Productions. Yeah. He has the flagship show of DJB Productions, if you're a wrestling fan, called That Way Cool Wrestling Show.
Yes.
Danny J, LeGrand Jackson, Charles Gregory, they have all wrestled independent feds.
Don't forget Mark Lindsay. Don't forget Mark Lindsay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Mark. Mark, I apologize.
I'll never hear the end of it.
It slipped my mind there for a second because unfortunately he hasn't been on some of the most recent
episodes. Yeah, he hasn't been on two.
Some scheduling episode issues. But Mark, again, my apologies. But if you love wrestling, especially old school wrestling, you definitely want to check that out.
Yes.
Again, through DJB Productions here on YouTube. Like the channel, subscribe to it. You'll be able to see those shows. They talk about a lot of old school wrestling. They've been getting some great interviews with some other recent wrestlers. Just prior to us recording this, the day before, they had Sean Hernandez, the original Supermax.
Lucha Underground, Impact Wrestling superstar. He was in TNA. Great interview, great guy. Love him to death, and he did a great interview. And we have other interviews coming up with other great stars, such as King Haku from the World Wrestling Federation.
That'll be a great one.
We have Gorgeous George from WCW. She was the one that seconded Macho Man Randy Savage. We have the original Patriot coming up, and a lot more coming on the show. So that's a big one. But then DJs After Dark. That's another show that we did.
Danny J, myself, DJ Rob Cannon, Fast Eddie C, Dr. Rock Ray Thomas. We're talking about a lot of DJ stuff on there. We're all current and or former DJs in some form. Some of us have done both college or high school radio, private parties, weddings, bars, clubs.
But understand this, I don't want to bore people like it's going to be like a tech show. Yeah, this is very much a comedy show.
If you like the Howard Stern show,
yes,
you will like DJs After Dark. Because again, we talk about a lot of DJ stuff, but it's mainly life through the eyes of a DJ and how things relate and funny stories from certain jobs. And
yes,
we tend to get off topic and start talking about other crazy stuff that's happened to us.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It's funny. Watch it. Check it out. Capes not included. If you are into superheroes, comic books, cartoons, check them out. Some of our most recent episodes, we talked about Buck Rogers and Battlestar Galactica, kind of which was the better of the two, which was more entertaining. We talked about the toys of the 80s. And hey, Danny, as a side, did you check out that link that I sent you for that crazy website?
Yes.
With all the Transformers toys. I found on there. It's crazy. Well, that's another show. We'll talk about that some other time.
Right.
We'll run way too long on this show, not be talking about what we really need to talk about. But we also have coming up shortly the Devereaux Sports Show. It's going to be talking about all kinds of sports. That's in pre-production right now. They're trying to get all their stuff squared away.
Right.
So again, we hope you enjoyed this episode. We look forward to doing more in the future.
Yes.
And again, if you like the show, subscribe to us, like the channel, click that little bell for notifications, because the way we do all of these shows, we record them in bulk, usually release them all in one shot, so you can either binge watch them or schedule them for later on. So we're not going to be blowing up your phone or flooding your email.
And that's one thing that's a main thing about YouTube with myself, is that I don't like getting a lot of notifications. I don't wrap my life around watching stuff, because obviously real life happens. So I like to do things at my pace, and I like to present stuff to people at their pace as well. So as Matt said, we like to release the shows in bulk as we get them up there, so that way you can watch a couple episodes here and there, wait for the next ones to come up. It makes it easier for people. We're not going to inundate you with notifications, but definitely sign up for those notifications. You can check it. Some of the shows we do live, where you can actually interact with us, mainly the wrestling show. Yeah, the wrestling show does that, so definitely subscribe, definitely share it, sign up for notifications, share it to everybody. Check us out on all the Facebooks. This particular show, Have You Seen It Lately, is on Facebook. You can like it right there. We'll post a lot of cool stuff on there as well. And Matt, take it away.
Yeah. So for myself, Matt Sunner, the man, Danny J, thank you for joining us on Have You Seen It Lately? So if you haven't seen your favorite movie lately, go raid your DVD collection, your streaming service, whatever it is, grab yourself some popcorn and make sure you can say yes the next time we ask, have you seen it lately? Have a great day. Thanks for joining us.